Well, my name is Amy Miller, and I'm a student in the MBA program here and an officer in the UAA Entrepreneur Network, which is a student club on campus. If you're interested, come talk to me after the event. Today's panel is being put on by the Entrepreneurial Edge Committee, which is another organization that includes faculty and staff from the university that's interested in entrepreneurial initiatives, as well as the club. And particularly, I'd like to just recognize our faculty sponsors, Al Herman and Forest Neighbors. We'll be hosting, the committee will be hosting another event on April 25th. The topic for that is to be determined. And on March 21st, if you haven't heard of the speed coaching event that the Entrepreneurial Edge and the Entrepreneurial Initiatives group puts on, it's an excellent opportunity if you're thinking about starting a business to get some free advice from qualified experts, including lawyers and CPAs and web designers and people like that. It's basically kind of a speed dating format where you get 15 minutes one-on-one with established professionals to ask questions about these different areas that you may need a little advice on. And that's on March 21st, so keep an eye out for that. That'll be actually held at the Boardroom downtown, which their business here is represented on the panel. So the way we're going to approach the panel today is we're going to have about 10 minutes for each business to introduce themselves and their business and kind of give an overview of where they're at as a business. And then after we go through the panel, we'll open it up for questions from the audience, and you guys can ask anything you want to know about how folks got started and why they had such crazy ideas and what their challenges have been, or whatever you want to know. So with that, I would like to thank all the businesses that took the time to come and talk to us today, including fatbikes.com, Pita Pit, Wheel Good Food, Anchorage Community Works and tenup.com, McKinnon Marine and Akanuna Technologies, and the Boardroom. So thank you. So I guess we'll start right here with you guys, and you guys can tell us about fatbikes.com.
Sure. Okay. So my name is Bill Fleming.
James Stahl.
James Stahl, and we're from fatbikes.com. There's kind of an interesting story behind that. So I actually met Jamie in the middle of a winter endurance race, and it was one of those horrible years where you couldn't actually ride your bike. You had to kind of push it along. And so that's kind of where I got to know Jamie. Well, a couple of years later, we opened up a bike shop, Chain Reaction Cycles, on the south side, and we kind of became intrigued with these fat tire bikes. There weren't really many of them available, and it was kind of a novelty thing. And if you had one, people were stopping you and asking you about it. And so we decided we'd make our own. We had an idea for a bike that we thought was maybe better than the bikes that were out there, and but it was completely terrifying prospect of getting these things manufactured. And we worked with a manufacturer in Portland, and so the very first production run, we kind of wanted just a handful of these bikes, and the manufacturer said, "Yeah, sure, we could do this for you, but our minimum order quantity is 100 frames." And Jamie and I looked at that, and we're like, "Oh man, we're gonna go bankrupt. This is it. We're gonna eat cat food, live under the bridge. Our wives are gonna divorce us." And but we did it anyway. And we had a couple of prototypes made, and people saw them, and they started pre-ordering them. So what we thought was going to be like a 5-year supply of bicycle frames, we ended up selling all of them within 4 weeks of receiving them, which sounds like a great thing, but it's not really a great thing because there's like a 5-month lead time to have these bicycle frames manufactured. And so we were out in 4 weeks, and then a lot of people were angry because they wanted these bikes, and of course we couldn't get them. And so we said, well, next time we're going to order twice as many. And we just never could get ahead of the game, actually. We were constantly behind on getting these frames produced. And we started looking at these big numbers, and basically we started sourcing some of the other components required to put these bikes together. And a lot of the manufacturers that we were working with said, okay, we'll do it, but you have to commit to these really large minimum order quantities, the MOQs. And so I think Jamie and I were starting to worry that we wouldn't be able to sell all of these fat bikes just within the local market. So we came up with an idea to kind of broaden the distribution a little bit. So we were kind of a little bit ahead of the game, and we were able to get the fatbikes.com URL address, which ended up 5 years later being kind of a lucky thing. It worked out really well. So the fatbikes.com was really just kind of a tactic to kind of deal with these minimum order quantities that we were dealing with. And what's happened is over time, we've kind of divided the company into sort of two divisions, really. We have the 907 Fat Bike brand, and we work with a network of dealers across the country. We have about 120 dealers across the United States, quite a few in Canada, and Scandinavia is starting to grow big. So we have a couple dealers in Scandinavia and Germany and the UK, the Middle East, and we've got this guy who just came on in Namibia, and he is killing it with these bikes. So we kind of have a dealer side, the 907 bike side of it, and then we also have the online side of it, which has also grown along with this dealer network, so fatbikes.com. So the fatbikes.com is kind of our consumer direct side of things, and then we have 907 Bikes, which is our dealer direct side of things, and they work real well when we run it out of the back of the Trek store shop, which was a bike shop that we opened last year. And so far so good, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else that...
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I think that's kind of the basics. There's a lot more to it, but that's kind of the overview, I guess.
Okay, sounds good.
My name is Billy St. Pierre. I'm with Pita, and I'm curious who in here has been to Pita already. All right. Has anyone been to Pita prior or other than the Anchorage location?
Mine is only in Boise, Idaho,
Boise, Idaho?
but I know your story.
Do you remember it at all, or I mean?
Story?
No. The kind of running joke with Pita Pits, they first originally started in college towns. Kind of that's what exploded here in the United States. And actually, just after finishing my undergraduate degree, I took an internship in Portland, Oregon. And it was actually for a sports agency. I originally wanted to be a sports agent. And down the street, maybe a block or two, was the Pita Pit. It was an office favorite. And it was also on the, I'll say it's Portland State University. Whatever university is downtown Portland is right on campus there. And we used to go there for lunch pretty regularly. It kind of had a cool little funky vibe. I was still 21 years old and really, really enjoyed it. This was back in 2007, and I actually come from a family back in Fairbanks that was involved in several different businesses, some of which were actually the restaurant business already. I remember calling my dad and telling him that he should look into bringing Pita Pit up to Alaska back then. And he had had a previously bad experience with a hair salon franchise up here and just dismissed it right away. But I kind of just kept it in the back of my head. I did love Pita Pit. I went to it also in Corvallis, Oregon State University. Yeah, and enjoyed it there as well. But after coming up here, I met Al through the MBA program at UAA. Just worked in restaurants. I do like the hospitality side of things, whether it be hotels or restaurants. And doing some traveling, I went to Bozeman, University of Bozeman, Montana, visited my little sister, went to the Pita Pit 3 times in the 3 days I was there. Only remember 2 of them. And anyways, when I came back home, I just went online and, there's a franchising button up there. I sent the initial email in. Essentially signed up for 1 store at the beginning, and the time frame, I worked for the DoD in the meantime, and I'm glad I had a job because what I thought was going to be a 6-month process actually ended up becoming 18 months. And a lot of the time in between was basically finding a good location. in the restaurant business, there's not a lot of real wealth building opportunities. It's potentially a great cash flow if it does work out, but I was very adamant on owning the real estate. And I remember one of my friends at the DOD, kind of this, I love Ian, he's like this older Thai guy, and his infinite wisdom is always present when you need it the most. And he just like kind of smacks me one day and says, "Are you in the restaurant business or the real estate business?" You know? And at that point, we had decided to no longer pursue real estate acquisition along with this, and that's when the Midtown store on 36th Avenue, we decided to take that vacant spot in the middle. And I mean, coming from my perspective, you got this kind of odd-shaped building, the parking lot's in the back, and you got this middle unit right here. It's a little daunting, but I mean, I just really couldn't think of anything else that would have been better at that time. And it's worked out wonderfully. I'm so glad that we ended up getting that spot. And then after that, I actually originally had the rights for the entire state at that time, and kind of took a bit of a deal. There was an interested party in Fairbanks to just get the rest of Anchorage and the Valley in exchange for walking away from Fairbanks. And now I've signed on for 4 additional stores, one of which is operational on the south side of town. And actually, up until 2 o'clock today, I just finished our preliminary negotiations for our 3rd location as well. So nothing's in writing yet, but I will be sure to try to spread the word as soon as possible once everything's solid and signed. Other than that, we hope to also have a presence in Wasilla at some point, and if nothing comes in Fairbanks, I'd like to maybe pursue that as well. And from my company's perspective, it's not Pita Pit. It's actually another company called Ladue Saints for my dad, who's my original investor, and myself. And I'd like to maybe try to convert. My long-term plan is to convert restaurant cash flow into international rental properties holdings. My parents have done quite well with rental properties here in town, and my passion's traveling. And I can't think of a better way to live life and work other than traveling and maybe trying to buy little apartments here and there in places I like to be and rent them out to people who want to go. So.
Interesting. Thank you.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow. It's expanding like crazy. My name is Kathy Robinson. I am the co-owner of Wheel Good Food, which is a mobile food truck in Anchorage that operates year-round. I own it with my husband. I kind of conned him into the whole proposition. But how I got into the food truck and food and things is way back when I have my previous degree in biology. Went to work for a company called Saltwater Inc. As a fisheries observer out on the high seas. Did all the adventure things, worked with the company 20-some years and grew with the company, learned how to do the recruiting and payroll and logistics and everything that was involved in the company. And then a few years ago, I got a wild hair and said, I need to do something different. So I actually signed up for the culinary arts program right next door at Cuddy Hall and went back to school, quit a perfectly good paying job, went back to school, got my culinary arts degree, and then I was trying to decide what I was gonna do. Everybody seemed to know they were gonna be a baker or they wanted to own a restaurant, and I'm not sure I wanted to own a restaurant just with the time commitment and such, but I knew food trucks were becoming quite the rage down in the lower 48, so we started looking into food trucks, and I was talking to my daughter, who was I think 7 at the time. We were at lunch, and I said, should we do a restaurant like this, or should we do a gourmet food truck? She thought about it for a little bit. She goes, food truck, and I'm like, okay, food truck, and we never changed the path since then. My husband and I started writing this massive to-do list, and I don't think it's stopped since a few years ago, of everything we had to do. We spent a lot of time researching. It's like, well, yeah, food truck, but what about it? So we actually all flew to Los Angeles over a spring break a couple years ago. Went and found every food truck and ate our way through LA for a solid week. Morning, noon, and night, we were driving through LA. I was driving, my husband on his laptop. There's a food truck there, tracking them, because they have these great tracking systems And you can find them on these mobile apps, and then we were looking for clusters of them. It's like, look, there's 7 of them there. And we go find them, and you see the profile of the truck, and we ate a lot. There was some really good food and not so good food, but when we spent a lot of time talking to the operators, the ones that had time, what works, what didn't work, and we knew that after we saw duct tape on some trucks that we wanted to have a beautiful truck, because we understand that curb appeal, people decide if they're going to eat at your establishment within 5 seconds. So if you don't look nice, you may lose your customers. The challenges that we ran into is operating in warm weather with people coming out in t-shirts and such is very different than operating at 10 below in Anchorage, Alaska. So that's the one thing that we had to learn pretty much on our own as we were doing it. You can read all the food truck books and how to open a food truck book and all this kind of stuff, but they really never talk to you about operating in the winter time. You need to park inside at nighttime, otherwise your water lines will freeze. We actually have 2 trucks. We've got our first truck. Its name is Bombolina. It's named after a little bit of a twist of a name of an Italian donut. It's made with ricotta cheese and Nutella. So if you haven't had them, you gotta come try them. So we got our first truck and learned some of the things the first handful of months. And then someone out in the Shoegatch area was selling a truck, and they said, we went and looked at it, and I'm like, no, we haven't figured out the first truck. Then they called us again a few more months later, and so I took some grown-ups with me, some guys that does all our equipment repair, and a professor actually at the Culinary Arts program said, okay, you are the responsible ones. Don't let me do this. Next thing I know it, there's another food truck in my driveway. So we have 2 trucks, and it's great because we can do multiple events, especially in the summer. So one sits for the winter, and we pretty much go down to 1 in the winter time. In the summertime, we'll have both trucks operating. But the challenge is, I guess the suggestions I would have is make sure you do your research and homework. Make sure you work on a business plan. You know what you're getting into. And on my to-do list, I really tried to establish what do I already know how to do, and what do I need to hire someone to do that I don't have the expertise in. And having connections too, learning who can do payroll, where do you get your insurance from, how do you get the health permits for everything you do. The never-ending laundry list of things that you have to do of starting your own business. And if there's no books or how-tos on your specific business, kind of learning it as you go. And then one of my favorite recent books I read is the E-Myth Revisited, and I'm having a brain flame on the author. But it's an excellent book because it really identifies the different positions you can have in your business. The short gist is, one is a technician. You're the doer. You know how to make pies, and you do really good, and you're gonna go start your own business, and well, you know how to make pies, but you know how to run the business. And they go on to explain all these different positions that you have to fill. And so I highly recommend that book. It was a fascinating read. And the one thing I'll end with is I recently returned from visiting my mother. She had knee replacement surgery. And I got home a few weeks ago or so, and my daughter gave me this little card, and in it said, follow your dreams. And I thought it was so perfect because we're embarking on a very thrilling and exhilarating but terrifying business. And that just kind of brought home, follow your dreams. You'll never know if you can do it or not until you actually try it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Where's your food truck gonna be for Rondi tomorrow if they get hungry?
Well, tomorrow night, maybe with Community Works.
Oh, hey.
Imagine how that works.
It is really good. I'm Paul Clark. Some companies brought 2 people. I got it backwards, and I brought 2 companies. So I'm here with Anchorage Community Works, which is a